I see an interesting parallel because, for example, Google Plus, by the traditional world, is still not even something that's worth paying attention to by many people, right? I
Yes.
don't know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's still early days. Absolutely, I
Okay.
agree with that.
And for some, semantic search is also something that just doesn't make sense. Why should I even care? And isn't it interesting how those that basically poo-poo, if that's the expression I could use, the concept of Google
It's a
Plus being,
technical term, right?
yeah, having any value, it's not worth it, it's not worth your time, nobody's there, right? That's the,
Yes.
the funny thing that they'll say.
Yeah.
And they need to defend their decision to say that, and so they'll double down. Like you were saying, some organizations that aren't interested in learning about semantic search because it wasn't invented here or it's something different, and so they continue to do what they've been doing before. Can you talk a little bit to the parallel of what Google Plus and semantic search and how they're sort of both happening regardless, but people want to ignore it?
Absolutely. I mean, as a matter of fact, if we go back a little bit earlier to the early days of the internet, there's another parallel there where a lot of companies were resisting going online for any kind of reasons. First of all, they said, we are local, we don't want to market globally, or they would go the other way, we are global, we don't want to market locally. Who's going to trust the web with their transactional details and their credit cards? All these objections came up, and we had the same sort of bell curve of adoption where a lot of companies resisted going online until it became inevitable. And the moment it became inevitable, you got this sort of wholesale transfer of all their businesses willy-nilly, without much thinking, online, thinking it was going to actually solve everything. And it doesn't. You really need to think about it. So that's the sort of parallel with the past. And now if we look at, quite rightly identified that both semantic search and Google Plus seem to be a minority in terms of awareness, and that's true because we're still at a very early adopter level. And what this does really is it allows those who come into it early on to take advantage of the opportunities to create the kind of processes that will help them in the long term. And those who get left behind thinking, okay, it's not for us, or it's got nothing to do with us, when it becomes inevitable, they're going to, again, come into it willy-nilly, trip up, make all sorts of mistakes, and then try to fix it and actually move forward. Google Plus, as a social layer, is an intrinsic part of semantic search. And why do I say that? Well, because essentially semantic search is about, and to get a little bit technical, is about entities. And entities here is understanding people and things as people and things, not just coded words. It's about ontology, and the ontology here is the relationship between entities. And the social layer allows Google search to basically mine those relationships, to understand how they connect, to understand how the relational values go. And it does this automatically in many ways. If you give a machine a set of data and it basically starts to sorting through the data based on a program which allows it to cluster things together according to similarities, 9.9 times out of 10, you're going to get a meaningful signal out of the clustering. So, you're going to say, okay, I've got here, for instance, 100 million tennis balls, and 65 million are green, and 35 million are red. That means something. That clustering actually means something. And based on that meaning, then you can infer other things, and you can deduce other things, which allows you to take that data and basically do something with it. And that essentially is the best definition of what semantic is. You take data, you connect it together, you understand what it means, and once you understand what it means, you take that meaning and you actually use it, whereas in the past you couldn't. So that's how businesses now using that kind of approach, those who actually do, to work better and work smarter and find new solutions to the problems that we